Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Coaches Close Clients podcast. Today, we're here with Cheryl Thacker, who is a Master Board Certified Coach, and she's been coaching for 10 years, an entrepreneur for over 12 years. So we're super excited to have her here with us to share her expertise and a little bit about her process for helping coaches really master sales and marketing. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So to get started, why don't you just tell us quickly a little bit about what you do now?
Okay. So my business, my company is called Successful Coaches Enterprise, and I actually help coaches and entrepreneurs to grow their business and to help create balance and health in their lives, to be more successful in life as well as business. So I do that through a lot of different ways, but basically I use a 6-part framework for 6 pillars to mastering your coaching business.
Okay, awesome. And tell us a little bit about how you got started with coaching and what your journey looked like.
Okay, so I actually had an illness. It was like a nervous breakdown about 16 years ago, and realized I was working like massive hours, like 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I was also raising 3 young boys at the time. And so God was kind of like, you can't do this anymore. He kind of pulled me down, and so I couldn't work. And it took me about 2 years to actually get well again, to be able to function outside the home. So during that time, I had to figure out what to do. I was a single parent, so I had to figure out how to make money for my kids, and I had no health insurance, and I had, it's just a big mess at that point. So I have a lot of skills. I was in the corporate world for over 25 years, so I just I did some web design and things like that, graphic design for my different jobs. So I decided, well, I'm going to do some of that on the side just to make money. So I started doing that. I was also in finance. So I started doing people's taxes and keeping their books, doing bookkeeping at home. So it's just doing, here and there, just doing what I could do to make some money for my kids, to pay my bills, and keep to get healthy, to keep moving towards getting healthy, but also, not going back to that corporate world that kind of contributed to my being sick, and of course me not taking care of myself. And that's why I'm a big proponent of the self-care, and that's a big piece of my, it's part of my 6 pillars, is that self-care, making sure that you create balance in your business. So from there, I just kind of, a series of events brought me to having to get my coach certification to run a nonprofit that I was working on. And I got my coach certification. And then from there, I knew that I wanted to be a coach. And so then I just started, I was a recovery coach first with Recovery Nation, which is my not-for-profit. And then from there, I moved to being an instructor and a training director at a coaching school. And from there, I realized there's a big gap between when people get trained as coaches and then actually their business taken off. So so I decided to go into business coaching and to fill that gap.
Awesome. And so how long have you been doing the business coaching specifically?
6 years.
Okay, awesome. And tell us a little bit about your 6 pillars. I'm pretty curious about that.
So there's the 6 pillars is basically visibility. The second one's relationship building, systems, marketing, sales, and other streams of income. And the self-care is in the relationship building. There's a big piece in there about self-care. And but basically the visibility has each section, each of the 6 sections has a ton of stuff under it. So
right.
I have an assessment that actually you go through the checklist and you do this assessment, and it tells you where all the gaps are. Like, I have everything that you could possibly need for a business in this checklist and under these 6 pillars. and we see where the gaps are, and then we start to fill those gaps.
Awesome. And what do you see as some of the main gaps that a lot of coaches have nowadays, since you've been in this field for a long time? How have you seen it kind of shift, and what are some of the main kind of challenges that people are facing?
Well, I see marketing is a big challenge, right? Everybody, all of us I do it too. I've do it less now, but I still do it occasionally. Marketing is not my strong point. And the more you tell yourself that, the more it becomes more true, right?
Right.
So I'm good at marketing is what I started telling myself. And that's what we work with my coaches, is saying, quit at marketing, and then get to good, and then get to I'm great at marketing, and I love marketing, and I enjoy marketing. That's the biggest gap that I see at first, is that everybody has most coaches have a big block around marketing. We feel like we're not good enough. We feel like our words aren't going to reach people. We feel like it's not going to make a difference, whatever. And so that's a really huge gap. The other challenge I see is around scheduling and structure. So we get into the business because some of the reasons is because we want to control our own schedules, control what we do and what we don't do. But what we don't realize is when we don't have structure and we don't schedule things out, is that we actually create more chaos for ourselves. We don't get more time. So it's kind of like a catch-22. But so that's the other thing, is kind of training coaches to understand that you can create you can pick and choose what you want, but you still have to have a structure and schedule around it so that you can make sure you're doing the things that have to be done in your business to make you successful. And in that success is structure. And it's a block for a lot of people. So those are the two kind of main areas. And then the sales conversations, that's a real big one. Like afraid to make the ask, afraid to say, here's what I have. This would be great for you. This is going to work really well for you. And just having that sales conversation, not backing down from it. I have a lot of my coaches actually record a sales conversation so I can hear what's going on. And you can just see them shrinking back, right, from that part of the conversation. Like, they're great up until you have to say, well, here's the product and here's how much it is. So that's a really big gap. So part of my training is to master that sales conversation. I have a 6-part sales conversation structure for coaches to use. And it starts out as kind of a script, and they can tweak it or whatever, but it tells you exactly what to do in each of those 6 different areas on that conversation. But that's I think it's a really big struggle, really big obstacle for coaches is to get that sales conversation, get comfortable asking for the business.
Okay, got it. So walk us through a little bit what the 6 steps look like. Sorry?
Okay, yeah, so let me just pull that up real quick. I'm so sorry.
All good. Yeah, so in the meantime, it's definitely a really common thing that I've seen as well, is coaches can be really good at even promoting other people's products, but then sometimes when it comes to their own product or service, they have this fear around it because this imposter syndrome kind of kicks in, where they're like, can I really help this person, or is my product really going to change their lives? And it's a lot of having to kind of work through those beliefs, right, before they can put their course out there successfully.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. So the imposter syndrome, that comes in many shapes and forms, but for coaches and entrepreneurs, I think that's a really, like you said, it's a really big deal. And once they realize what that is, like what is imposter syndrome, they go, oh yeah, like there's this big light bulb. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what's happening. So this master your sales conversation framework helps you to overcome that. It helps you to move forward. So there's 6 pieces to it. It's the opening, the agenda, discovery, solution, invitation, and close. So basically during that opening, you're just taking 5 minutes to kind of, before you get on the conversation, is to get to know a little bit about your prospect that you're going to talk to. And that might be social media, Googling, whatever, or information they might have filled out for you, but just getting to know just a little bit so you can make some connection when you first get on the call with them. And then your opening is basically showing the prospect that their time is valuable by thanking them for coming to the call, right? Thank you for joining me today. And then bringing up that kind of research, something from your research to connect with them. I see you're from such and such, or I see that you do such and such, and just make a connection there. And then talk about something that you might have in common as well. That's really important, right? To build that rapport and create a connection. And then the second part is just the agenda, is setting the pace of the conversation. So you're going to say, hey, right from the beginning, take the lead and say, hey, we have 30 minutes, and during this 30 minutes, this is what's going to happen. And so we mention the time frame. We want to state what we're trying to accomplish in that call. We'll let them know that they'll be able to ask questions, of course, and that we're going to be asking questions to get them to know them better and know their situation, whether it's, for me, it would be their business, but if you're a different kind of coach, to see whatever is going on in your realm. And then you're also going to mention in that time that if you're not a fit, then at that point you would refer them out. So again, it sets kind of the expectation for the call, and it also allows you to, just to let them know that if you're not a match, you might not be a match, right? Not everybody's a match, and if you're not, that you will definitely give them some suggestions on who else they could, work with or contact. And then the step 3 is just basically the discovery. So that's where you're asking all the questions to identify pain points, kind of the what's going on, what's the overall goal they're trying to reach, what's the overall challenges, what's going on now, and then what's the gap for them. What's the gap between what they want to get and what's going on now. And then the timing, how soon are they looking to get into coaching, resolve that issue, or whatever the case is, and then just kind of recap it. So recap what you've discovered, what you've identified as the main points, get that confirmation from the prospect, and make sure you're on the right page. And I always say pull out like 3 main points, no more than 3, because then it can get to be too long. And then if you're a fit there, after you've recapped and you've gotten that confirmation, if you're a fit, then you're going to move on. And if not, then you're going to just stop right there and thank them for their time and just say to them, hey, I don't feel like we're a fit, and here's the reason why. And be open and honest and forward about it. People appreciate honesty, and of course we don't want to make them feel bad in any way. So just being very matter of fact of why you feel like they're not a match. Either your resources aren't there, or you're not, you just don't feel like you're the right person to handle that. Whatever the case is, but just be okay with saying it. And then if you are a match, you're going to move to step 4, which is the solution, where you're going to provide some strategy and value. It's not the time to pitch or sell your services right here. This is where you're kind of giving them some help. You're telling them kind of what your opinion of something that would help them in that situation, whatever those 3 kind of main pain points you pulled out. Some tips or encouragement, or something like that. And you might also bring up how you have overcome those things, or how you have moved forward with those things, if that's the case, or maybe previous clients. So just kind of just providing some strategy and value. And we're going to do step 5, which is the invitation, and that's where we're going to fill the gap. So that's where we're going to ask them to work with us on the product that we feel is the best match for them. And we want to paint a good picture, what it looks like to work with us, confidently talk about what that product is, and how we will help them within that product. We don't want to shrink from this part of the conversation. We want to practice always talking about pricing as well, but don't lower your voice, don't break eye contact or anything like that. Just keep talking like you normally are talking about your product, and move right into the investment for this is, and just state what your investment is. And you're going to hear some objections usually, and that's okay. Having some some scripting in front of you to overcome objections while you're learning the sales conversation is great if you can. But be honest about what you can do to overcome those objections, or what they can do to overcome the objections. One thing here I say is always have a backup product. So your main product that you're pitching, it might not be right for them at this moment. It might be too much money. It might be wrong for that time investment, let alone the money investment. So have a backup product that if it makes sense, if that objection is mainly having to do with time or maybe the amount of money, then maybe you're doing more of an entry level product that you're going to sell them. Something to keep them connected to you, just a lower scale. Maybe it's moving to a group product versus a one-on-one, or a boot camp versus a whatever, a year program or something. So you want to just have something as a backup always on your call. So I always feel you should go to your sales conversations with 2 products to pitch. And then, from there, overcome any objections that you can, and hopefully they're ready to purchase at that point and they sign with you. And then the close is step 6. So basically, even if the answer is no, you're always going to give next steps. So if they say no, you still want to say, okay, so maybe you can join my Facebook group and you can get some value and get some tips to help you with your situation. Or maybe you're saying, hey, what if I put you on my email list so that you can, get this freebie or get this process that will help you in the emails. Whatever it is, give that next step so that you're still connected in some way. And then, of course, if it's yes, then you'll move into your onboarding process, which you should have established beforehand and automated as much as possible. That's it.
Okay, interesting. Very cool. So I have a question about having a couple offers. So what would you recommend as kind of the offers that coaches should have in their pocket or kind of prepared for a sales conversation?
Well, so of course it depends on what you're selling, but or what you're doing for people. But I always say to have a high end, like all in type product, right? Here's the ultimate solution to your problem. If you do this, you work this program, or you come on one-on-one coaching with me, or whatever it is for you. And then you always have a backup, which is, again, it could be a group program or something that they're going to have less access to you, but it still gives some access and still keeps them kind of tied to you until they're ready to make that bigger investment. It could be that they're just not ready to do it because they don't know you well, they don't know your process well enough. And so if you're offering that kind of backup, then here's the thing, if people are getting on your consult, getting on your calendar to have a consult, there's an interest there, right? Mm-hmm. They've made a connection with you, or have heard something about you or something. So don't just leave it up in the air. Don't leave business up in the air. If you can't sell your main product, the one that you're saying, okay, this is the one that's really going to work for you, then back it up with something else. You don't ever want to leave money on the table.
Got it. And what have been some of the best ways that you've seen that coaches are attracting people to book a call with them in terms of like the marketing strategy and actually finding people that are ready to invest in a program? Because it's a different kind of person, as we've kind of been saying, that is ready for that higher end program versus like the lower end programs potentially. So what are some ways to kind of identify those people and target them?
Well, so of course your marketing strategy is going to play a big piece in it, but so I start from training, right? So coaches that are in training, right there I say, you need to start getting visible right now. I don't care if you're not going to launch for 6 months or a year or 2 years, whatever that is. You want to start getting visible right now. So you want to get your expertise out there. You want to get your personality out there. You want to start connecting with people and And the main thing that you first have to understand is your audience, right? Who's your audience? Because if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. No one's hearing it. There's too much noise out there. And there's a lot of kind of guru people out there that say, oh, you don't need to niche down. You know, you don't need to. Yes, you do. You need to have a niche. This is my opinion and it's my experience.
Yeah. I feel like all the gurus are saying to choose a niche, but
of course there are that do say it, but there's some out there. I mean, I've been told by coaches, oh, but so-and-so said I don't have to niche down. I can coach, anybody on anything. Well, you can if you've been trained and you know the coaching process. You can coach anyone on anything, but that doesn't build a business. That doesn't build your following. So getting really clear on who your audience is, who you want to be speaking to, and then having some, systems in place and pieces to create structure in your business. So like a business plan and a vision statement and a mission statement. These are all important because it's what drives you, and it's what makes people notice you. And then your voice follows those. So when you have a mission, statement, then your voice starts to follow what that mission statement is, right? And people start to hear it and start to get attracted. Having a growth mindset, really important as well. But basically, getting visible. That might be social media. That might be, Instagram or LinkedIn. A lot of coaching is done on business is done on LinkedIn. IG is a big one, and then Facebook. Really, I mean, there's different ways to hit each media. I know one coach who's actually slamming it on Pinterest, which was pretty surprising for me to know as a coach anyway, strictly as a coach. So
what niche is she in?
She's in career coaching, and it really surprised me. But yeah, she's doing awesome there. So, when you find out who your audience is, then it's easy to find out where they are. That's what you do, is you go hang where they are. And that's a big part of getting visible, is just knowing where they are and hanging out, and then having your voice heard. And then once people start, talking with you and interacting with you, then it's about building those relationships. And that's really important, to be able to speak to people and to get people on your calendar. You have to start building those relationships.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I think this is a wonderful place to end off. So if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
You can get me on Successful Coaches on Facebook. I have a Facebook group for coaches called Master Your Coaching Biz. That's the Facebook group. And then I'm also on LinkedIn as Cheryl Thacker.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for coming on and sharing your process and your many years of expertise with us. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience really enjoyed it as well. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. It was fun.